So, welcome to the Lived Health Conversations. This is where science meets story. Okay, so this is hosted by me, Emma Toms, and Jen Wilson, the Healing Rebel. So, if we're trying to bring together some lived experience, but also how that's developed in someone's life, this lifestyle medicine that to me I found by myself. It wasn't really called lifestyle medicine, but it now that's what it's called. And to start to build these conversations and open up a space where we can see what's worked for other people, because there's a lot of noise out there and there's an awful lot of information, but I think sometimes we need people that have been through it and come through the other side. And that's really important to me because that was my experience. So we'll start to talk about all the pillars, but mainly what we wanted to do today for Chris is to really get your own experience, because we met at the Lifestyle Medicine Conference and it was just a joy to meet you and hear about all your own stuff. So welcome, welcome, welcome.
Thank you, ladies, for inviting me on to your podcast.
That's great.
You
So
inspire me every time I see what you say. So there you go.
that's lovely.
Right back at you.
Yeah, it's mutual. So do you want to tell us a little bit more about, I suppose, what you do now, Chris, as a practitioner, because I think it's nice to start at the end of the story and then kind of work back.
Okay. I'm a qualified hypnotherapist and NLP practitioner. Some people like to call me a mindset master. I think that's a bit grand, but I tend to work on people's beliefs, and our beliefs are kind of formed by events and traumas and things and that have happened in the past that have formed our view of reality, if you like. And in the majority of cases, those beliefs they tend to be negative. Um, and I work to reframe them into a more workable and positive way for people to move forward. Yeah? Is that okay?
Sounds amazing.
It's much needed. Because when the brain's in that survival, like the brain's there to survive,
Yeah.
help you survive. So it's looking for the dangers. But then it's easy to get stuck in those loops of just being in survival mode all the time.
Yeah.
Which is what we all see when you start to talk to people with chronic illness or health issues, is that they are stuck in that survival mode.
The number of people that I see that are in that sympathetic nervous system for long periods of the day. In fact, I'd say often it's turned on all the time, even through sleep. Um, they're seeing danger everywhere, even when there isn't, because they're tuned into, recognizing that, if you like. And I
Chris, how
think
did
that,
you... Go ahead.
no, sorry, I was going to say that, and I think when we're living in that sympathetic system, we're lowering our immune system. We're turning off in a lot of ways our growth system, and it leaves us open to infections and illness, and I think that's where we see chronic health conditions start to rear its ugly head. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And so the work that you do now, like how did that develop? Because obviously you have lived experience. So do you want to tell us a little bit about how that work evolved because of your own health experiences?
Yes, as many people know, I've been a businessman all my life, really, and I was extremely driven by money, because I thought that was status, that was success, that was everything that we would put on this planet to do, was to make money, and without it, I was a nobody, um,
Mm.
and I pushed myself really hard, and I think I was 42. I think I was 41, something like that. I got really ill. I did think I was Superman, and I thought illness was something that happened to absolutely everybody else but me, until it did, of course. And I got diagnosed with multiple sclerosis in 2002. So I'm pretty ancient now, but yeah, that was 24 years ago. Um, and at the time, it was a devastating blow, if you like, because, as with many of these chronic health conditions, there were no positive messages attached to that label, none. It was all progressive, it was downhill, and there was no cure, you know. Um, and I kind of dialed into all that negativity. Um, Life changed drastically for me. My first marriage fell into disrepair, if you like, and anxiety and eventually depression really became part of my life. Until in 2007, I thought it was a really good idea to end my life because I didn't think anyone would miss me. I thought everyone would be better off without me because I was a burden. Um, and I did have a serious but incomplete attempt to end my life. Um, the thing that saved me that day was compassion and a thought, really. And in my introduction there, you might guess why I do what I do now, really. It was a thought that saved me because I suddenly thought, how is this action that I'm about to do, how is it going to affect the lorry driver? Because my choice of dispatch was to go under the front wheels of a heavy goods vehicle. And I hesitated and glanced off the side of the lorry. It was that close, but it was also a huge kind of wake up call for me. I used to call it my slap round the face with a wet fish moment. Um, and that thought around him and me started this cascade of things in my life that I wanted to know why I'd never really cared about myself, never had any compassion for myself. Driven myself really, why I'd driven myself into the ground really for what, for what. And I started to study really how the mind works. Um, for me, not for anybody else, just for me, really. Um, yeah. So that was the kind of the beginning of my journey. In 2008, after an enhanced MRI scan, my neurologist informed me that I had now entered the secondary progressive stage of multiple sclerosis. Um, and there were no drugs available at that time apart from baclofen, gabapentin, and pregabalin, which they're kind of epilepsy drugs, I think, and pain management. And I didn't do very well on them. I really didn't, and I kind of didn't understand why I should take a drug that enhanced all the symptoms I was experiencing with multiple sclerosis, like muscle weakness and brain fog and why would I want to take a drug that enhanced that? I'd rather have the pain. So I accepted the pain. I thought I'd find a different way of dealing with that, and refused the drug. So I was very much on my own then. The neurologist said to me, he said, I'll monitor you on a yearly basis. We'll hope for a cure. Um, but be aware that the way that this condition is advancing for you, in my opinion, will be in a wheelchair by 2012, which was only 4 years away, really. I didn't really like that very much, because I also saw that as a weakness, if you like. But I accepted it, you know. Um, and as you know, this new lady came into my life in 2010. She sort of bashed me around the head a little bit and kind of taught me that I wasn't really the person I thought I was, you know. And she also gave me a reason to be the best I can be. Does that make sense? You know?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah. So I carried on studying how the mind works. But I also then I started to find people living with multiple sclerosis that had positive stories attached. And I thought, hang on a minute, I want to be like them. I don't want to be like all these other people that I see, you know, and this is no disrespect to anybody, but the kind of people that you see at the MS Society get-togethers, I didn't want to be that. I wanted to be one of the, I wanted to be one of these positive people. And I thought if they can do it, so can I. I'm gonna find out what they do and I'm gonna do more of it, which I did, you know.
I love that.
Um, yeah. So I I changed my diet massively. I started to learn more and more about meditation, which I know you girls are going to be really into. Um, and I'm not proficient at it, but I tried hard and I started to use techniques and I found that I was getting movement back into my toes, you know, which was quite a big thing for me, really. And then I started to be able to tap my left foot to music, which I couldn't do. And I thought, hang on a minute, if I can do this with meditation and diet change, what can I achieve? What can my brain, what can it create for me, you know? And it fired me up. Now, I was going to see my neurologist every year. Strangely, I don't know what it's like in your part of the world, but they always put the surgery that people with walking difficulties and broken limbs in the furthest surgery away from the car park. You know,
Absolutely. So we're only a patient with that would ever recognise.
Yeah.
so I was seeing my neurologist, in my wheelchair, because I just wasn't able to walk that distance, you know. And he was really happy to see me. He was happy to say, hello there, blah, blah, blah. How are you? Nothing new, seeing the year. And off I go, But in 2017, I've been working on myself. And look, none of this has been easy. Trust me here. But I've been working on myself, and I was doing exercise. I was in the gym. And 2017, I walked into his surgery, and he was shocked. And he pointed at me and went, "What drugs have I put you on? What drugs is it?" And I
Always,
said, "Sorry."
it's always that they always want to give credit to a drug.
Oh God, yeah, yeah. Well, and I said, "Well, I'm not on any drugs." And he said there was nothing you could do for me. And he looked me up and down. He went, "You look like you're getting better. What are you doing?" And it felt like he was having a pop at me, to be quite honest with you. And I told him, and he completely dismissed that. And now as an NLP practitioner, I understand the process that he was going through there because, we we cannot process all of the information that's coming into us. So we tend to delete, distort, and generalize everything that's coming in. And he just deleted the fact that, and I'm going to say this, I disobeyed him.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
Totally agree.
no disrespect. And I love health professionals, and I really do. But what they say isn't always right, if you get what I mean. And you know what, guys, we don't have to follow that disease profile.
Yeah.
Something I've nicked from you girls. You might have a diagnosis, but you don't have to be the prognosis, isn't it? And you don't.
Yeah, I stole that from Jen as well.
I stole it from David Hamilton. We'll give it credit back to where it actually belongs, to David Hamilton. He is amazing.
Thank you, David Hamilton. Yeah.
Can I ask you a question, Chris? When you were doing your meditations, were you visualizing improving that movement, or were you working on quietening the mind, and then the body just did what the body needed to do?
I used to send little men in working like with like hard hats and yellow ivy's coats and imaginary tools. I used to send them out to go to wherever they could find any damage in my nervous system to repair it.
Yeah.
That's what I did, it was just it was a visualization process, and of course, I'd changed my diet. I was actively following what was the original MS diet, which was devised by Dr. Roy Swank. It was quite oppressive, but I was following that. But I actually really believe it was the meditation
Yeah.
that reignited those connections for me.
Yeah. Yeah, that's really interesting.
I do. I think that's why I wanted to ask that question, because this is something that David Hamilton talks about in his book, How the Mind Can Heal the Body, about people who, when they were getting chemotherapy or whatever, they were visualizing the drug going in and just attacking the bit that it needed to attack, and then they weren't getting side effects for it. And there's so much research back, like showing athletes do visualization before they go and compete in big events, and there's so much about creating that pathway. And we now know so much more about the nervous system and the neural pathways and mirror neurons and all of this amazing stuff, that when you give the body the right conditions and the right instructions, it knows how to heal itself.
Yeah.
Changing the program, isn't it? It's changing the program. Yeah.
I'm so pleased that you said that, because one of the things that I've talked to you about, like what I do, and it's about recreating those limiting beliefs that people have. And I'd been brought up very much as someone that respected the doctor. The doctor knew best.
Yeah.
He was really, or she was God,
Yeah.
Um,
And some of them believe that.
yes, they do. Yeah, they do. Yeah.
They're not.
But I reframed that belief of the doctor knows best to I true, and I mean this, and I'm not trying to explain this to people. I have a deep rooted belief now that we all possess this innate ability to heal from within. You just have to get your mindset right. It's in a way, it's like the placebo pill, isn't it? If you believe it's going to do you good, it probably will, because it's that belief thing. So I often, I talk to people with chronic health conditions. I'm saying, keep doing what, keep taking the medication, but believe you can heal and do the right things. Change the diet. Start looking at what you're doing, the choices you're making. That will enhance the
Mm.
pharmaceutical drugs that you are choosing to take. I don't take even a paracetamol, but that's what works for me, So
I wanted to just go back to a point that you made about, that being dismissed by the neurologist as well. And I understand, we all understand the kind of processes that they're going through. I've had similar experiences as well. But can I just ask how that felt for you as a patient that had worked so incredibly hard to even get your toe tapping, to walking into someone's eye? Because that's like, for some people, it's like walking on water, for some people with MS.
yeah,
How
yeah.
did it feel for you?
It kind of plays into my own belief system really, and I kind of went, well, stuff your pal, I'm just going to carry on doing what I'm doing, mate, and if you
Yeah,
don't like it, you don't like it, and it
yeah.
it it was I don't want to be horrible or anything, but it was two fingers really, if you
Mm,
don't want to know. And for me, people, I mean, he has now retired, but he is in a powerful position.
yeah.
And I felt that it would have been beneficial if he'd have dialed into some of the
Mm,
stuff that I was doing, and maybe he could have started people out on their journey with these conditions with a kind of a different mindset. But he didn't want to choose that. And who am I? Who am I to? I'll just carry on doing what I'm doing, And the beauty is that the MS nurse that started my journey all them years ago, she still she doesn't refer them, but she says to people, "You need to go and have a chat with this fella." Yeah,
you're an example to
yeah,
what is normal in that, which is really great to see that. I really like that. And there should be, yeah, there doesn't necessarily need to be a direct referral, but I went down to Manchester this year as like a patient experience, and the brief was empowerment and new diagnosis, which is quite a bold, it's quite a bold statement to go and talk to 100 NHS professionals and try to change their mind about, kind of what worked and what didn't without getting angry either. But yeah, it's interesting to see that, that actually, I mean, I just want to touch on that dark side of your story as well, of actually reaching that point of no return, because that could have happened. And I know me and Jen have touched on that when we've spoken before about how you just didn't feel like you were worth, and how that system exacerbated that message of you're broken. And I think it was only one little internal voice for me that was kind of, why would my body attack itself? There was just that one little message that just kept me moving all the time. I need to figure this out.
mm,
So, I think this is where we're at with these conversations, is being able to open up not just our journeys and how empowering it was, but how emotionally destroyed you can feel by the diagnosis and also the treatment that follows it up, because I'm not sure that a lot of people know about that side of it, because we generally shut down a bit about that, don't we?
Yeah.
I think I just think that say the question again. Just ask me that question again. Go on,
It
because
was
I was
more
going
of
to go
a
on a
kind of
tangent.
reflection. I think it was more of a kind of reflection of that, reaching that point where nothing felt worth it. I didn't feel worth it. I felt so broken that actually this seemed like the only option for me. And
Mm.
just to reflect on that a little bit more for patients that might be going through a similar thing, because I know it's definitely been part of my journey too, not quite getting to that stage, but definitely feeling that.
Yeah, I think I felt that my whole life had been a lie, really.
Yeah.
Um, and if I if I wasn't able to generate the kind of income that I was used to, right, and I was used to generating quite an income, believe me, um, that my self-worth had gone. But I'd like to sort of share really a story, and I know you girls are spiritual, and I'm not talking about religion, whatever whatever for anybody, but I talk about the universe, and when I started my life back in 1959, I was a premature baby, which it's quite a big thing back then, really, kind of. But my mum, she was advised by medical professionals back then to terminate the birth because she'd had many stillbirths before me. I've got a brother who's 10 years older than me, and medical science back then said that you need to terminate this birth because only one of you will survive.
Mm.
And my mother refused. She was gonna go full term no matter what. And she did. And I survived, obviously, because I'm here. And so did she. And she went on to live to 84, I think she was, you know. So that kind of is the first example in my life of, and it's only now that I kind of realize this, but I believe that I was put on this planet to do exactly what I am doing today, right? Because I want to encourage people to take control for themselves. We've got a chronic health explosion, both physically and mentally today. Yeah. And I think the universe, and I'm not suggesting this as a thing. I'm not saying it's a thing, it's not good. But I think I had to go to that point because the universe kind of went to me, you just ain't getting it, are you, Chris? Have some of that. Yeah. And I got the message then, like that slap round the face with a wet fish moment. I got the message. Thanks. I'm there. And I started pedaling my bike, in a new direction, really. You know, I'm not recommending it, guys. It's not a great thing to do. Go and speak to someone, blah, blah, blah. But it's what I needed.
Yeah, yeah, we all need.
And yeah, I needed that kick up the arse to get myself going in the direction that I've always meant to be going in.
Yeah. Yeah. Do you have anything to ask about that? So much, so much.
So the question that's really coming to me is, do we then think that this health epidemic that we're all living in is the universe trying to shake us awake? It's like, instead of the plague, we've now got autoimmune conditions, and this is like the grand awakening, the strongest will survive.
Oh God, that's no what
That's
I
a
think.
big, that's like a whole separate
I think
podcast.
this is a 100 edition podcast that we could talk about here, couldn't we, really? But I think, look, we're all being governed, aren't we? And the way I see us guys, we're cows to be milked for profit by
Mm.
big corporations, big pharma, big food, big whatever. And we need to take back our innate control that we have, and I'm feeling myself getting a little bit angry, really, yeah, because of the messages that we are given around the crap that is on supermarket shelves and stuff like that, that is healthy. I don't know if you saw this, right, but we've got the Manjaro jab, haven't we? And right, I don't know if you saw this in the news, but supermarkets have copped the hump because people are eating less food. Their profits are going down, right? So they've
Wow.
started to produce a specific rate. Now it's not billed as if you want the fat loss jab, eat this, like smaller portions, but it's being billed as, it's all the nutrition that you need. And I nearly swore then, and I was
So
going to say, what
You're a
a
living
load
swear.
of V, yeah.
yeah, yeah,
And guys, just wake up, just eat the best you can, you know, because we've got to stop being used as bloody profit.
mm.
Yeah. Does that make
Yeah,
is that okay to say that, guys?
Yeah.
absolutely, yeah.
I think it's so easy for people to get hooked in because I mean, I slag my partner off all the time because he came home from the supermarket. He likes to shop in the yellow label aisle, so he likes a discount. He's Polish and he grew up in communism, so that's just how he operates. But he came back and he had these wee packets of the macaroni, and it's macaroni cheese, right? And they've put the word protein
Yeah.
in front of macaroni cheese. And it's
Mm.
like, it's full of protein. And I looked at it and I went, it's full of crap. It's exactly the same nutrient breakdown as it was before, but they've stuck protein in it. You've seen it and gone, oh, I'm going to get that. And then he bought protein water. And I was like, and what crap's in that? Like, I'm always having a go at him about this because he's totally switched on a lot of things, but also he's very easily manipulated and marketed to because it says protein on it, so therefore he'll buy it. It's like you can get Snickers and Mars bars and Bounties and all that say protein on it. It's still the same crappy chocolate bar than it was before. If you want a bit of protein, go and eat a bit of chicken or a bit of steak or
Yeah.
chickpeas or tofu or whatever it is, real foods. Oh, anyway, that's my high horse. Let me take a breath.
Yeah, no. Listen, I'm singing from the same in sheet, darling. So don't worry about that.
Yeah,
But we've been programmed like that now, haven't we? We're everyone's living. Well, not everyone, because I think us guys are a little bit different here. But most people are living in this stress-fueled, performance-related environment that people, it's tough. It is tough for people, you know.
It is. When I think about, I was going to ask you a little bit about stress and how that played a part, obviously, in your condition, and also how that changed. But I think this is the problem: is that if we keep everybody in a cycle of confusion and stress, then we're not never going to make the right decisions. And this is exactly what we discussed earlier on: is that sometimes we need to accept, step back, and be able to look at what we're actually doing. And this is what I do in my own work, is like, okay, come sit, let's just sit and let's just see what's actually
And
going on. Let's relax
breathe.
the body. Yeah. And then we can start to decide what's next, then what's next. And a lot of my clients will say, but I'm really worried because I'm not getting in a routine. And I'm like, just set a wake up time and set a bedtime. That's it for now. That's all you need to do, and try to eat 3 meals a day. Just focus on that. And I think we're scared to slow down. We're kind of always wanting to put the plaster on top rather than actually, because if we slow down, then there's that whole thing of like what's actually going on. We have to actually look at our lives. So I suppose to ask you really, how you felt about that. What, because obviously you were high pressured industry, focused on money and success. So how much do you think that stress played a part on your life, and how did that change during your recovery?
I think for me, stress was the like the kick factor for me, really. I think stress plays a part in creating many of the chronic health conditions we see because what it does is you're flooding your body with hormones and chemicals that you don't really want running around in your body. I think also unresolved trauma
Mhm.
um, plays a part. And I will say this, that dealing with my own trauma and understanding it has been a massive help in creating the person that sits here today, without a doubt, you know. And I get in trouble a little bit sometimes for saying what I'm about to say, right? But, and it's a fact, right? I think governments, uh, corporations, they want to keep us in a stressed, in a state of stress. Because when we're stressed, we're turning on that sympathetic nervous system, aren't we? Right? And I say this, right? And guys, don't shoot a messenger, right? But stress makes us stupid. Yeah. Because
Yeah.
we make knee-jerk reactions without thinking about the consequences of that choice. Yeah. So stress makes us stupid. And it does. All of
I
us,
totally agree.
including
Totally.
me.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah, me too. Because it shuts down that executive function to be able to rationalise and think clearly in your brain when you're in survival mode.
Yeah, I often think of like little when I'm trying to describe things, I often think of like cartoon characters, you know, and you're like running around and not making the right decision and completely tripping up over everything. I mean, that would pretty much describe my life for a long time. Was just like running around like a lunatic, never achieving anything, burning out, not sleeping, and completely being shattered all the time. So I
Yeah.
suppose we're coming up to a point of like wrapping up, Chris. So I want to ask you finally, what would be your message? You know, the summing up of your message for people with, you know, chronic health conditions. What would you want to leave as your message?
I truly want people to understand that we do all possess the ability to heal from within, you know, and you do need to look at the choices that you are making in your life, you know, look at them. And if you need a bit of help, go and see someone, you know, go and see someone that has got a different view. So that's what I would say. But yeah, I would say truly believe, look at your core beliefs and know that you have the ability to heal from within.
That's a lovely ending.
Nice.
So just to let everybody know, we'll pop all this obviously in the show notes below, but where can people find you? Where can they find you, like speaking, posting, you know, where's your website, that kind of thing?
Well, my website, if you put my name in, if you put in www.chrisfreer.co.uk, you will find me. I also have a hashtag, which is hashtag BVOMT, and it's turning into a bit of a movement, that, because it's all about being the best version of ourselves, or what, you know, yourself today. You know, that's what it's about, and it's creating change for people because they're not falling off the wagon, and they're just continuing to be the best version that they can be today.
Love that.
Yeah.
I'm loving the hashtag as well.
Yeah. We had a really good conversation about that when we did our individual podcast. So if people want to know more about that, definitely go and check out
Yeah.
that other episodes to hear more of that chat, because we had a good chat around
Yeah,
it.
it's good. But if you stick it in Google, you'll find all about it's all over the place now. There's people, yeah. It's good.
That is great.
I love that it's a movement. I love that it's a movement.
Yeah, I love that it's a movement as well.
Not the other kind of movement. It's good.
It is very good.
I'm going to let you wrap up.
Okay.
Say what you need to say.
So thank you so much for your time, Chris. We both absolutely adore you. When we're not speaking to you, we're speaking positively about you in the background. You come up in conversation a lot, and I have shared your posts on LinkedIn, and I've shared information. One of my friends is just going through a diagnosis for MS just now, and I've pointed her in your direction as somebody to be inspired by, because obviously everything we've spoken about the medical route that she will be taking on. So thank you so much for being here and being that inspiring character that you are. If for people watching, please make sure that you like, share, subscribe, follow, all that jazz to help get this message out, because the message is important. And as we've mentioned, the message is getting stalled within the health service, and those of us that are the outliers that are doing well with our conditions really want to be the beacons of light for those that are maybe struggling. So please do follow us and join us in the conversation. And if you have got any thoughts about what Chris has talked about, put them into the comments. If you've got any questions, pop them in, and we will keep this conversation going.
Yeah. Thanks, Chris.
Thank you.
Hello, Chris. I know I said this about Hollyanna as well. I love everybody in the BSLM. Like, they are so inspirational, and I'm very grateful that this community has been put together, that we have this network of people across the country that are beating a drum for better outcomes.
Yeah, I really like that.
Yeah. What was your biggest takeaway from what Chris has talked about?
When I spoke to Chris before on, when I spoke to him personally on YouTube or whatever, it was really about that, he calls it a slap in the face with a wet fish, but I know we kind of talked around it a little bit, and because it's kind of a big subject to talk about, but that feeling so worthless that you felt that was the only option for you. And I work a little bit with suicide prevention as well, and I think, and we'll cover, a little bit of what he said about beliefs that lie underneath that. But the thing that drove Chris mostly was that I don't feel good enough. I'm going to, drive for success and money. And then it's kind of the thing that put you in a space where you're at the lowest part of where you are, because without that thing and without who you are and being able to do things, and it so resonated with me. And I know we've talked about this privately and on our own stuff, that it's such an important part. I don't think we talk about it enough, that when you're diagnosed, you can feel, and often the message feels like, well, you're broken, there's nothing else we can do. And I was 17 when I received that this is just who you are now kind of diagnosis. And with every little diagnosis, with every new problem, with every new issue, I felt more and more worthless, until there was a point where I think I reached Graves' disease, where I kind of had a little bit like Chris, well, how much longer are you going to do this?
Yeah.
How much longer are you going to accept that this is your life? And again, touching on some of the other stuff, I had to change my environment, my internal environment, but my external environment as well. And I know Chris has done the same, where he's talked about, I changed my diet. By changing your diet, strangely, that stopped him being invited to meals and things like that. And so it's like this such amazing process when you stop and say, this is what's going on for me. This is literally how shit I feel about myself, that this is what I was going to do. I think it was a massive point, especially for a man, to say that. Yeah. So that's my huge takeaway, that I think probably could do another 2-hour podcast on that.
Yeah, just on that point.
Yeah.
And I think it's really interesting that you talked so much about that pushing hard for the money, for the success. And then when that gets taken away, it's re-establishing what is your why, what does success actually look like to you, because you've gone for the money, you've had all the cash, or you've had all that self-importance. Because for me, I pushed really hard, but I was never actually making any money, but I felt needed all the time. And then what happens when you physically can't look after yourself, so you can't look after anybody else? How are you going to unpick that? How are you going to unravel it? How are you going to find meaning for your own life? Because I never got to the point where I wanted to take my own life, but I was definitely at several points, I'm going to cough, several points where I was like, if this is what my day's going to be like tomorrow, I don't want to wake up. I would say just let me go.
That was more, this is too hard, I don't want to be here, my life is just terrible, and I don't, I don't know how to get out of it. I don't know what the next step is. And you say something like that where I was so needed that I couldn't. I mean, how do you find yourself? How do you find your life again? How do you find you? Because that's what I felt with Grays, was that I don't even know what I like, what I enjoy, who I am. And I say this to a lot of clients: when you're rebuilding, it's find the things you love to do when you were a child. Find those childlike things. I mean, I went back to doing photography, I wrote, I found purpose and meaning in just the things that brought me they're kind of, oh no, there's a flower, there's a bird, and it took me out in nature, and I started to notice, and that's that slowness again that we're talking about, that slowing right down. But it's that I don't really want to wake up. Obviously Chris is a more extreme kind of example, but if that I don't want to wake up anymore goes on for a prolonged period of time, and all that's getting done is being smacked, antidepressants, and how do you manage that on a long-term basis if you're diagnosed in your 20s? It's incredible.
I think I was probably fortunate that I didn't get diagnosed until I was sort of 37, 38, because if I had been diagnosed at 17 and told what I was told then is, you're now a sick person, you just need to accept that, I would have accepted that and then been the victim. And it would have probably been harder for me, whereas when I was told that at 30, I was like that, no, I'm not. Like I had more resilience in myself, and I'd had more experience from personal development, personal growth, that I was like, no, that's not who I'm going to be. I want to be something different. But then there's also, in all those changes that you're making, looking after yourself, there's loneliness. As your groups start to change, as the people around you no longer fit the position within the group, so they don't know what to do with you. And
not the drinker, the smoker, the person that works all
the
time,
or whoever, whatever your role in that group is. And then all of a sudden you're like, well, I've got no pals now. But then that's clearing space for you to be able to rebuild your life in a way that's much better for you, where you will then find new people and find new support. Like we all have.
It's that void though. It's like sitting in the void long enough with the discomfort to be able to get through the other side. So are there any other points that you wanted to touch on? Because that was a big thing for me. It was huge. It actually hit me right in there.
But I think you went into that more in both of our individual conversations, so definitely check them out. We'll put the links to them in the show notes. Let's be the outliers. And that's what this is all about. It's about us being outliers, having the voice of inspiration and hope for other people, so that they don't feel so lonely, like they don't feel like they have to go and learn it all for themselves. I had the benefit that I'd done a degree in sport and exercise science, so I knew how to go and research things. Had it been 17, I wouldn't have been able to do that. Who had a career through service that probably
it certainly
helped you open your eyes to other things.
It certainly helped, and I don't believe in accidents anymore either. I started in an outpatients clinic doing all sorts, and then the rheumatology clinic needed one specific support, and so I would counsel patients, and it really, by doing that, seeing their journey, helped me understand, what I was going through. They were more a lot of my episodes at the time were more acute attacks, but I started to see, and they obviously talked to me about what I was going through and the risks, so I was like HLA-B27 positive, so thinking that could be linked into like really, really bad, horrific back issues. So it was they were very drug orientated, but actually I was really lucky, and I thanked him in my speech when I was in Manchester, he always asked his patients, how's your spirit? Always. And that just meant the world to me. It just meant the world to hear someone say that to someone else, even though I wasn't his patient.
It makes you feel seen, and it's such a simple question. And we did kind of touch on that God complex that so many medical people have, but that's because they've been told all through school you're the smartest one. If you work really hard, you will be the smartest one in the room. So then they believe that they are the smartest one in the room. And the best doctors and nurses that I've come across are the ones who don't believe that they're the smartest person in the room. They believe that they're a human being as well as you are.
Big shout out to Dr. Sandeep to hear there. So I mean, what an amazing. I mean, I could keep talking to everyone in the Voices of Lived Experience team, because their stories are so impactful on me as well, and to feel like part of a group that's had the same kind of experience, although totally different in so many ways. And I think that's what we found together, you know, is to be able to just sit with the rubbish and also the good stuff, and be able to know that there's a path out, which is really, really great.
And why we're having these conversations, so that other people can hear that there is common threads, although there are so many different approaches to helping you heal. There are common threads there, and Is
there anything else for you to add? We could go on.
Let's just wrap this up right here, right now. So as I said before, comment, like, share, tell us your stories, and we'll see you on the next episode.